Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there around the world. It's time to plug in and get the news train a-chugging. The idea is to take aim at somebody. Much like if you've got a gun or a bow and arrow or something like that, you're aiming at a target which you're intending to shoot and to kill. Now, Trump here, pick his nose, is taking aim at Fauci. He's trying to discredit him, even though he is a lifelong pandemic and epidemiologist expert, and he's just him. To take aim at somebody, usually through criticism or something along those lines, discredit them, you're trying to damage their reputation, tarnish their reputation. Moving on, let's look at the caption. Now, there's not a lot of shocking vocabulary here, but there's some very good grammar. It's not going to be mind-blowing or revolutionary, but it's always good to review complementation and other constructions. And we've got some good stuff. As the pandemic rages. This "as" here, we see it a lot in the news, and it basically means while. While the pandemic is raging, again, present simple because it saves space, much like "as" is shorter than "while." But we've got two things that are going on at the same time. While the pandemic is raging, like moving and acting in an uncontrolled fashion across the countryside, cases are spiking. The other week we were saying 47,000 cases in a day, then it was 50,000, 55,000. I think we hit 70,000 cases in one day in the US. Things are not looking bright, rather bleak to be honest. As the pandemic rages, the Trump administration appears to be, now just a good complementation, after appear we use an infinitive, appears to be, and then after that be here, then we need an ing because it's a present continuous construction. So to be trying, how are they trying? Actively. Nice little adverb here modifying how they're trying actively to discredit, and more complementation, two verb constructions. After try, we know we need an infinitive as well. To discredit the disease expert. Which disease expert? Now we've got a relative clause. The disease expert who publicly disagreed. Nice adverb here modifying the verb disagreed, and he disagreed publicly, and we usually disagree with somebody, the president. So it's nice little multi-layers of complementation with a couple infinitives and a couple adverbial modifiers of the verbs. Just some good, nice, long, grammatically correct multi-clause sentence. Not mind-blowing, but it's one of those repeat it to yourself a couple times because by repetition, you internalize and it increases retention. You get to keep it and call it your own and maybe then replicate those structures in your own speech and writing. More about Fauci here. Ta-da! He opens up about why he's not being allowed on TV. Well, here we've got not being allowed to do something, to appear on TV. And it is a passive, but we have no by here at the end. He's not being allowed on TV. By whom? Well, probably the guy in the picture up above, the Trump administration, because, well, technically that is his boss. Now, opening up about why he's not being allowed on television. And to open up is to reveal the secrets or this information inside, which was not necessarily public knowledge previously. And so people often open up about past experiences, open up about their feelings. That's why people go to therapists, because often we're very closed and we're afraid of how other people might judge us or how other people might feel if we tell them our true thoughts. And so we have to go to an independent third party in order to open up and express ourselves. Through that, getting in better touch with the actual thoughts and feelings that we experience. Moving on to those numbers I was talking about. Florida shatters the U.S. record of single-day COVID-19 cases. Yay, go Florida. Spreading the disease like better than anybody else. Florida's #1. As usual, you can set a record, then other people can break the record, and if you're going to break the record in a very dramatic fashion, not by a little bit, but by a big number, thousands upon thousands more. They shattered the record, much like my dog shattered the glass thing around the candle when it fell onto the floor. Moving on to more virus news, however, in a different country. In Bollywood, India, Reels. We've had it many times on the show, but as a continuous or as an adjective. Bollywood is reeling, or is left reeling, as its top stars are struck down with coronavirus. Now let's start at the end here. To be struck, strike, struck, irregular verb. And so they are struck down by the virus, with the virus, either way, so that's the past participle. And to be strike, struck, to strike basically means to hit. And so then therefore be affected by. And to be struck down, this is a quite literal particle, or in this case really preposition here, which means down, out of commission, not moving. And well, if the top stars of an industry are out of commission and not working, then yes, Bollywood is left reeling, as we've had on old school cinema projectors with the actual film from reel to reel, or on a fishing rod. The way you pull the line and the fish in is using the reel, which winds up the string or the line, the fishing line. And so with reel, it implies circular and spinning. And so yes, as we've said, it's like something shocks you and you're left reeling. It's like your head is spinning and you don't know what to do, you're in shock. Yeah, your head is spinning. Well, we're also going to see this exact word again down below. Stay tuned. On to Southeast Asia. We're going quite international around the world today. Southeast Asia's ecosystems were buckling under over-tourism. Of course, here the over prefix meaning too much. Yeah, just like professional athletes are overpaid. And then the opposite being under. Teachers are underpaid and underappreciated. Wink, wink. Hey, throw some bits at me. Subscribe to the channel. Click the likes and the follows. Help me make a dime. Ooh, shameless self-advertising in the middle of the broadcast. Over tourism, you've seen the pictures. Probably, quite a few of you have probably been there. One of many tourists swarming across one of these destinations, like the beach from the beach. You've seen it firsthand. There's just too much tourism. And tourists typically generate a lot of waste and they affect the local economies, often not in a helpful way, sadly. If you have too much of something, that puts pressure on the system. And eventually, if there's too much pressure, the system will buckle. Not like the thing on the cowboys have on their belt, but to buckle, like if you have a can, like a soda can, and you squeeze it like that, eventually one of the walls will buckle and the can will crush. Yeah, when a building collapses, sometimes one of the big steel beams buckles under the pressure and it falls. And so buckling implies under pressure, and then it's not strong enough to hold up and support the weight anymore, and it buckles and then starts to collapse. So this is not a phrasal verb. However, we buckle under pressure. We buckle under over tourism. Your boss at work is trying to get you to do something and you're resisting it because you think it's a bad idea. But then eventually there's enough pressure from above, the boss, maybe his boss then gets involved, and eventually you are forced to buckle and do whatever it is that they want. Yeah, quite nice visual verb because it implies that idea of like a steel beam or something like that, bending and then collapsing. So it's no longer able to resist the pressure of something. Whew. There's a mouthful for you. Let's move on. More Asian news, Southeast Asian news, Hong Kong. Opposition. And the opposition are the people that are opposed to something. And so they are against, they oppose the security law. And as a result of the security law, they're not allowed to actually voice their opposition. And so by voting, they are exposing themselves to potential imprisonment or other criminal charges. And so, yes, but they feel so strongly about this. They voted. They took part in the election, which was held just at the end of last week. And they did that despite their fears of the new law. And so they're afraid, but they did it anyway. People are speaking and talking. They love but. Buts are everywhere. Everybody has buts. But it's overused and we can speak a bit more eloquently and a bit more accurately. And with despite here, then it usually is complemented by a noun. Here we've got despite their fears of the new law, these people voted in the election. Despite has a cousin, which is although, but although needs to be followed with a full subject and verb. And so we could just use the same clause. All these people voted in the election, although they were afraid. That's one of my little grammatical passions, despite and although, moreover, different ways of creating contrast, because by contrasting you are better able to explain that which you want to say. However, that's not the point of today. We're doing the news, and so let's move on. Backs down on the mask, because he's been no mask, anti-mask, masks are for weaklings, masks don't do anything, mask, smash, mask. Well, he had to visit, not had to, but he visited a hospital, a veterans hospital, mind you, over the weekend, and he actually backed down like, oh, well, okay, I'll put a mask on. To back down is to give in to pressure. He actually, you could almost say, buckled under the pressure to wear a mask. Just to recycle the vocab from up above, because hey, why not? Repetition equals retention. Super duper. Moving on. More international news. On to Central Europe, because every election is a race to who will be the first person to reach enough votes to win the election. He has declared victory. We have won, to declare, to say something publicly. He declared victory, despite the polls being too close to call. If it's too close to call, the margin is too small to be able to actually definitively predict an outcome without the actual numbers being counted. You don't know, it was too close to call who won it. We have to go back and look at the video footage to see which runner actually crossed the finish line first. Moving on. This is some good visual vocabulary. Facebook's future keeps getting murkier. Ooh, such a good word. Murkier. Coming from, logically, murky, M-U-R-K-Y. As a comparative adjective, the Y turns into an I and becoming murkier, like water in a river. If you went in there with some goggles, you still probably couldn't see your hand in front of your face because the water is muddy, dirty, and cloudy. And so what your vision is obscured. The things in front of you are hidden, are obscured by the cloudiness of the water, the silt and the dirt which is suspended in the water. Their future, though, we're not talking about water here, we're talking about a company's future. And so if the future is murky, that means it's unknown. And especially when we use this talking about somebody's past, somebody seems to, we don't know really anything about him. He has a very murky history. And it means that we don't really know that much about him. It is sort of kind of hidden. Maybe he's not saying or explaining things clearly. And because of that, it leads us to suspect that something might be a little bit illegal, a little bit maybe some shady or questionable dealings or actions in the past. And so with that idea of a murky past, a little bit suspicious, the murky future, well, we don't know what's going to happen, and it's looking a little bit more shady and dodgy as things move forward. Big lies are taking their toll. We've had it many times on the show, and it means are causing damage. To take a toll, to do damage. Yeah, that's it. And so big lies are taking their toll because each time you tell a lie, you always have to keep covering it up and then often tell another lie to cover that up, and then you have to remember all your different lies and keep your story straight. You have money, but you're unable to pay your obligations, and you will not have the future ability to pay your obligations. You are bankrupt, and to file for it, whole lot of forms that you need to fill in and sign and then submit. And so we just use file for bankruptcy, file for divorce, file for custody, file for many different things, anything that involves a form and lawyers and courts and so on. By filing for bankruptcy, they were declaring bankruptcy. Resigns from his position as a writer. Resign from your job, to step down, yeah? If something is touching, it means that it provokes or evokes emotion within you. Evoke is better because provoke usually means to cause a negative feeling. To evoke just means to bring forth sympathy or gratitude, a touching memorial, a touching service, a touching eulogy. If something's touching, it means it causes emotion, usually a positive emotion. Nice, future passive. And so the question is, with the passive, wild bison will be released in the UK. By whom? By buffalo pirates? To revive, to bring back to consciousness, or bring back to life. They were killed off and wiped out from England a long time ago. Who knows if it was by humans or by climatic, not climactic. Because climactic is about the climax of, say, the climactic result of the movie, but the climatic is about the climate and the environment. Yeah, climatic reasons. Gosh, had to think through that one myself. The North American flavor of buffalo, technically, which are bison, not buffalo, different animals. To collide, a collision, just like divide, division, collide, collision. Yeah, leaving the team reeling. Oh, they're shocked, their heads are spinning. What are we gonna do? Our top two cars and drivers are out. I'm using a bit of logic to arrive at that conclusion. To grovel, my dog was kind of groveling after he broke the glass this morning. And he's like down on his hands and knees, begging for forgiveness, begging for mercy. Please, please, please. That's kind of one meaning of grovel, to be like actually physically down, looking up and begging for mercy or clemency. Ooh, vocab from Friday or Thursday. To beg for forgiveness or mercy, leniency, clemency, or also another form of groveling is by basically showing more respect to somebody than necessary in order to try and gain their favor, to curry their favor. And so to be obsequious in a way. There's some vocab for you. Try and spell that one. Yes, to grovel, and to be subservient, and to overly praise and show deference and respect to somebody who doesn't deserve it in order to gain their favor. Puppies and dogs grovel anytime that they do bad, trying to get mercy and get back in your favor. Goya's galling affront to Latinos. An affront to somebody is an action which is shocking, it's appalling, it causes outrage and backlash, and so Latinos are really upset, and this action which upset them was truly, truly shocking and offensive. And so a galling affront, they're just saying how extremely offensive it really was. And there's going to be some pushback. People are calling for boycotts, meaning not buy their product, as a form of protest against them. Vast just means enormous and wide-reaching. The Pacific Ocean is vast. Siberia is vast. The vast frozen tundra of the Canadian North. Vast just means really, really big and wide and expansive. To insult, because if it stings, it hurts, it's painful. Sting is what bees do to you. And that hurts. And so if something stings, it hurts, because he's a conservative judge. And so by having him strongly criticize the president, it hurts that much more because he's supposed to be on my team. Whatever. If it's under scrutiny, that means they're looking at it very, very closely. Wow, the sun just came out. You can see that the colors of me have just changed here. Now I'm sort of glowing like the morning sun. They're being looked at very closely. They're being examined piece by piece, clause by clause. And it's unprecedented, never having been seen before. It's been a guest star on the show quite a few times. Wow, that's a mouthful for Monday morning. And so, those were the headlines for today, Monday the 13th of July. Thanks for tuning into English Otherwise. This has been Breaking Down the News. If you've liked what you've seen, or you think you know somebody who would, please click the like, subscribe, share, pass it along, make the world a better place. And so much love, have a beautiful day, and if I don't see you sooner, 8 a.m. tomorrow. Bye-bye. Yes, stop the stream.